Okay, here we are with the author of Intuition at Work, James Wanless. James,
Hey.
what does intuition mean to you?
Well, intuition is actually a little feeling, and it's not just some kind of strange psychic kind of thing or anything like that. It's hardwired into the emotional part of our forebrain, into everybody's forebrain. So it's not just a woman's thing or a psychic thing. It's a human thing. It's like a muscle. And actually, intuition, the word means tuition, education. Education from where? From inside of us. So it's the best, clearest way to know who you really are. I mean, it's the authentic inner voice. Now, sometimes intuition can come as like I heard a voice, or it could be a picture, a vision, or it just might be an idea, or just a little tug, like, I'm just feeling maybe I should do this or go that way. So it comes in different forms. But mostly we're so thoughtful and we're thinking and using our logic, can I, should I, what do people say, blah, blah. We're not paying attention to actually I have the ABCs of intuition. A, be aware of this little feeling, because a lot of times it's little and subtle. B, believe in it. The reason why we don't believe in it is because sometimes intuition will tell you what to do, but not how to do it. And unless we think and my brain knows how to do it, I'm thinking, I don't know if this is the right thing. So you got to believe in it. And C, have the courage to act on it. So it's one thing to get the feeling and be aware of it and believe it, but it's another thing to then move on it, do it, be it, follow its advice. And that takes a lot of courage, because sometimes it'll tell you to do things that are out of your comfort zone, that are not part of your habit world, if you know what I mean. My greatest example of intuition in my case was I was a professor of political science. I was working in Lebanon, and my little inner voice, little feeling said, quit. And I go like, whoa, man, quit? Really? So I followed it. And it told me to go to India, though. So I went to India, and I immediately got sick there with hepatitis. So I'm thinking, God, this intuition, I'm not sure about that. But that's the best thing that could have happened to me. I ended up in a Tibetan Buddhist monastery, and for a month I just did the Buddha Gold Light meditations, and that changed my life. And that really got me into the meditation path. And to be truly intuitive, it's not just a little jolt or something that comes from anywhere, anytime, because sometimes, maybe not. Because sometimes we project what we want to see. So to be truly intuitive means to be able to sit down, be quiet, close your eyes, and really go within and feel what your heart is telling you. Because it's a heartfelt, it's an emotion. And if we follow that little heartfelt push, that tug, that jolt, then we are following our energy, our juice, our passion. And that's how we're going to be happy. And that's how we're going to be healthy and successful. So it's an amazing, subtle little tool, but we've never been educated to know about it. We've been educated to think about all these things, and we need the thinking mind. I'm not putting it down. However, and even by far, the best scientists, they all claim intuition was their guide. I mean, Einstein, he was an okay mathematician, but he got to E equals MC squared by feeling that this is the way to go. And it was all imagination. It's a feeling, and even imagination, what we see up here, a lot of times in our third eye, is really truly another kind of form of intuition. And as Einstein said, imagination is more important than knowledge. And that's where the feeling comes in. So we're all brilliant. We all have this gift. We just have to be aware of it and follow it.
Is it like channeling?
Channeling is kind of a loaded word, yeah. But I mean, where do we come from anyway? We come from the life force, So if I get a feeling, where does that come from? Really, it comes from, the mystery. And so in a way, our whole life is a channel. We are a medium. We are a vehicle for the life force. But intuition is the clearest kind of directive from the mystery of the life force of any kind of directive we get. Because you could tell me to do something, okay, that's you. And the book could tell me to do something, that's somebody else through a book. But when I get this little inner voice or this little picture or an aha, like, wow, where is that coming from? That's the mystery. That's the magic.
You said picture. Is it like visionary?
Yes, you definitely can come as a picture in the mind's eye. So intuitives are visionaries because they can see. And the great artist, was the artist who was in the South Pacific, did all those great South Pacific paintings, said, and I'll remember it in a moment, but anyway, he said, I close... Gauguin, thank you. Gauguin said, I close my eyes in order to see. So true, because we are so distracted and so busy with all the sights and sounds of everything in our lives now, especially in this busy world, that we've got to be able to turn off the phone, turn off the TV, turn off all that stuff, and go deep, deep within and be quiet and be silent and be balanced.
You think, is that what area of the brain you would say that? Is that like you pointed to the crown chakra or the pineal gland? Or what?
No, well, it is near the pineal, which is a so-called third eye, but it is in the emotional part of the forebrain. The forebrain is all this forebrain, as we might describe. It's human. It's a human thing. By the way, the only other animal that has the same structure as a human is the mouse. And I think that's why Mickey Mouse, I work in Japan a lot, is so famous there. It's like a god. I've seen sculptures of Mickey Mouse in temples in Japan. Maybe because they have the same structure as we do. They're intuitive little creatures.
Yeah, or that, Walt Disney was very intuitive. I think he was a visionary. You think of Fantasia.
Oh, yeah. Well, but sometimes intuition can come as a smell. Rumi, the great poet, said...
All senses.
Exactly, all senses. And if you use all senses, you're going to have the sixth sense. Mm-hmm. The sixth sense. Rumi talked about my wisdom knows. And this greatest, most amazing scientific discovery, I just read about this magic triangle, about stuff I can't even understand. This scientist said, we smelled it out. We felt it out. It felt right. And sometimes it's a feeling of hot or heat or even a taste. We're just so unsensory. We're just so mental that we're losing out on this incredible ally and asset we have within us naturally.
Yeah, and it sounds like, just being present and centered and balanced and listening to your senses. I mean, you think about all the things, your senses, right?
Yes.
Everything in our environment. We feel, we smell, we taste, we hear.
Right.
So those things all work for your intuition?
Absolutely. And it's so useful, especially in communication. I mean, empathy, feeling where another person is coming from in order to truly communicate with them, that is a feeling. I'm feeling into your shoes, Hinton, of where you've been and where you're coming from, so I can really communicate with you.
Sure. How about empath? You just said empathy, but say someone who's overly intuitive or can become an empath, right?
Well, an empath, yes. I mean, empath is the feeling person. But sometimes people are almost too empathic. Right. And we need some boundaries, the ability to distinguish between my feeling and your feeling.
And whose feelings are they?
Well, ultimately.
Right, often people take things personally, right?
Oh.
When you got to whoa, what's going on with this person?
Right. I just read a Harvard Business Review edition of this great magazine. I love it. And it's talking about how in the corporate world, there's always a feedback process of review of how the employee is doing. Well, they're done in an unempathic way. So the person or the team that's being reviewed goes into defensive, like, I don't like what they're trying to do here. This doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel good. And they go into a defensive thing and it does not help because the reviewers are not empathic. They're not intuitively feeling into the position this person's been in. The moccasins they walk, that's the Native American thing. Before you judge anybody, walk in their moccasins.
Right, so now you've done workshops for corporate people, right?
Mm-hmm. True. Yeah.
Try to teach them.
Well, to trust that little feeling or that picture that's crazy, but I use it in the corporate world for creativity. They always want new ideas. And new ideas are particularly stimulated by pictures and symbols. And that's why all this work with tarot and all my decks and all that, they're incredible innovation tools. So I'll have, like, I worked at Oracle Computer once for an afternoon, and they all picked a card, and the question was, how can we make more money? Okay, fine. And they picked all these cards, and then they had to pick an image from the card, and they went off. I mean, it was hard to stop these people. They were all the financial people of Oracle. It was one of the most amazing afternoons I had. It unlocked and gave them permission to be creative and outside the box, for sure.
Well, that comes back to, I think, what they adopting Leonardo da Vinci's concepts of right and left brain, and that they were trying to get, that analytical and the creative side of the brain together in harmony, and intuition would be the centering of that, right?
I agree with that. I think intuition is a natural integrator of all parts of the brain. I think it's the super brain in a way. It's the switchman in the railroad yard, who's controlling, managing all the different parts and all the senses we have. And ultimately, that's what I do. I'll sit down and I'll ask, so what does my nose smell or something? And go through that, and what does my heart feel? And what does my gut say? And what does my brain think? And all of that. And I'll even go to an imaginary wise woman. And this is a Carl Jungian psychology principle of active imagination. So I would imagine her. I've seen her. I have a good relationship with her. I ask her a very simple question, and I wait for her answer. Now, where is that coming from? I don't know. But it is so amazing that our own thinking, we get out of the way of that and allow other players in our life to have their word.
And you mentioned that meditation is a good practice. I mean, when you can quiet the mind, relax, and breathe, and access your own cellular memory.
That's right. That's exactly right. And then you were talking about cellular memory. I think imagination is another part of intuition. And actually, if you're imagining yourself walking on the moon or going to the beach or wherever, if you really imagine that, your cells don't know the difference. They think you're there. So, I mean, to be able to use that third eye of imagination, but even where is that coming from? And how come you had that picture? We don't know. That's the mystery. And so it's trusting the mystery. A lot of us simply do not trust the unknown. We have to see it in black and white.
Well, you just hit on something else. I mean, it's like, you talk about mystic, that seems like, we could get into mysticism, but we want to focus on intuition. And I'm sure all mystics you are a mystic if you're really practicing your intuition, right? Mm-hmm. So if I lost my train of thought. We talked about cells, activating our cells and accessing cellular memory,
right?
Which were pre-encoded,
right?
We come here with,
right.
And that's what you're trying to help people get in touch with, right?
Yes, in touch with ourselves.
Instincts,
yes, and instincts. I think the human intuition is the analog or the parallel to the instinct in animals. Animals just know.
Oh, absolutely.
And we screw it up by thinking and oh my God, rah 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 rah, and
they're very intuitive, right? I would think. I mean, that's their nature.
Oh, totally. And we are too, because we're animals as well. But we have this thinking brain that gets it all confused.
Well, now we're talking about cellular memory and activation. I mean, you use the nose. I always refer to my dog. I said his nose knows.
His nose knows, right?
Because
right.
that's how he senses.
Right.
So you think about the nose. You think about smell. I mean, like mothers can identify their baby through their nose, through smell.
Right.
So smell, like as an adult, might bring up some memory. Sometimes I get a whiff of something and it reminds me of being in the kitchen with my grandmother.
Right.
Cooking food or something.
And it's a great technique. I call it meta-sensory intuition. So if you want to know about a person, or let's say a situation, what's going on here, just smell it out. I mean, you're not literally going to go up to the person, let's say, and smell them. But I'm going, what is this person's taste? What is their smell? What just comes to you, and trust that information.
Certainly. I mean, you just said something that's very intuitive person. You can walk into a room, or you can be in someone's energy field.
Yeah.
And their messenger molecules are, sort of swirling around in your own energy field,
Right.
and that's how you intuitively, or you can read people.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If you just stay present and
Yep.
because your subconscious is picking up a lot of stuff.
Yep.
You have to be able to
Always.
sift through
Always.
that. You have
Yes.
to sift through that,
Right. Right. Right.
and find something that's meaningful in that moment.
Exactly. And we all have that, but we ignore it.
Right.
That the first of ABCs, we're not aware. We're just simply not aware of it, but it exists. And our hands, I always say hands have eyes. Hands have eyes. So when I pick a card, a Voyager card, I don't look for where it might be. I feel it. And I feel, ooh, that feels right, and trust it and go for it. So we're learning, again, follow that feeling. But hands, I mean, it's all quantum. It's some quantum level science, like, oh my God. Because there's a guy, I don't know if you know, but there's a guy called the Card Mechanic. There's a film made about him. He's been blind. He can take, and he's practiced this all his life, with regular playing cards, he can feel them. He'll even put them under the table in case you think he's tricking you. And he can see in his mind's eye what that card is, just by feeling it with his hands. The Ace of Cups or whatever, is this, and he sees it.
Now that we're talking about cards, why don't you maybe pull the card and just give us a little quick reading on that particular card? Because we're going to point out that you have a book. It's called Intuition
at Work.
At Work. Let's see. Can you show us that right now? Bring that over here.
This book.
To me.
Sure.
Don't angle it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Wait a minute. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Hold on. The light's hitting it. There you
right,
go.
There you go. Yeah.
That's James' book on Intuition at Work, and you need to go online and get this book because he teaches it all in that book.
And now, this is not a woo-woo book, because again, some people think intuition, it's like, oh, clairvoyant, rah, rah, rah. This is very everyday. This is everyday, especially for business, So it's so practical.
Or just in life in general.
In life in general.
Just integrating yourself into culture, society.
Absolutely. I mean, it's our savior. It's our best ally. It's our true self. Our true self. And it's accessible at 24/7. 24/7.
You gotta be careful.
Okay.
You face towards the light, all I see is a white cover.
All right.
Okay, so here it is.
Intuition at Work. It's also a voice audio book. I made it. I read it once. An audio company wanted me to do the book that way. That was interesting.
Okay, let's put that down.
Okay, fine.
And then now maybe let's end with a card reading.
Okay, now I don't have any of these are all new decks. They're not open, but I have the Baby Voyager. It's little, it's cute, but the cards are in here and it all works. So I'm going to pull out some. But when I do cards, the first thing is, what's the intention? And what do you want to pick a card for?
Let me see what you got here.
Yeah, what do you want to pick a card for? They're little. This is DNA on the backside of all Voyagers.
Hold one up. Let me just
yeah,
tilt
sure.
it up. Let me see. Yeah.
They're small.
DNA.
Yeah,
okay. So now I'll pick, or you want me to touch it, or do you want to touch it? We're picking it for the viewers.
Okay.
Everyone viewing right now is getting a reading from James Wanless at this moment.
Okay, cool.
So tune in, sit still. Take a deep breath. You're about to be activated.
Woo! I love the word activation that you're using, because I've invented a new word called intuactive. Intuactive, meaning I get the intuition and then I activate it. I've been activated. So but what's the intention for the people of the world here? What do we want to know? What's the question? What's the intention? What do you think?
I would think, right now in this moment, that everyone would want to use their intuition right now and see what comes to them. So this card is what we're calling in right now. Right.
To develop their intuition, to access their intuition, and
to go back to the activate, right?
To
activate your intuition.
And I have it here. It's small, so I got to pull it out. There it is.
Okay.
This
so we're
little
gonna pull
card.
One out. Hold on. Let me see. You're gonna hear it comes.
Okay, here it comes,
and
it is the star.
Hold it. Again, we got a problem with light reflecting.
Right. Okay, there it is.
Let's see. And it has on there. It says, let's just hold that space, man. I mean, that feels really good.
Well, that
I
is.
mean, we're talking about we're children of the stars, and we just pulled the star for everybody who's watching right now. Your star energy is being activated. You are a star. You are a precious star, a miracle. You know, you're the gift. You're the gift. So now, James, here, take that. Okay, that is great. I'm like, my cord is.
Well, see, what's amazing again, our energy, Hinton, because
just a little here.
I just read a poem by you, some verse by you about coming from the stars to be the star that we are.
Right.
And it's probably the highest course class I teach is how to be the star that you are. And this is, so we kind of called it in here, but this is for everybody. We're all stars.
Right.
Find your light and shine your light. This is actually Kuan Yin. It's a beautiful symbol.
Wish you had a bigger card.
Yeah, well, I do have bigger cards, but I didn't have them open right now here.
I can't really see that.
Yeah, that's really a bummer. But Kuan Yin is the ultimate goddess in Asia of enlightenment, wisdom, mercy, beauty, love. And we go to her for the truth, for what's really going on in life. So she's the highest goddess in all of Asia, Kuan Yin. So this is not some ego star like, oh, I'm so lovely and beautiful star. No, this is a very spiritual being because we come from that mysterious life force through the light to shine our light.
Right. This is not the physical matter. This is the spark of life.
Right. It's light.
We're tapping into.
Yes.
That star that was activated in all of us.
Right. We come from Stardust. Even our matter comes from Stardust.
Right.
You know.
Nothing matters without matter.
Exactly.
Matter is what it's all about.
We're star people. We are star. The sun is a star. I mean, come on.
I hate to ask you this. Maybe you don't want to say it, but I was going to ask you. But you're a little older than I am. But I came in a harmonic convergence year. My generation were the children of the stars.
Yeah.
We're literally.
Was that 1987?
No.
Wasn't 87?
No, I'm talking about when I was born.
Oh, when you were born. Oh, that was, okay.
I'm not going to, I guess like I say, in 1947 was a harmonic convergence.
I see. Yeah.
A lot happened in that.
No, it was 1943, man.
No, look it up. Harmonic convergence was in 47. So that'd be 40 years.
Wow.
Right?
That's
and so
interesting.
That era where, we have names for that generation of people. Right. My generation we refer to as the star people.
Right.
We came from the stars. Native Americans would say that.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
So
absolutely.
They believe they came from the stars, which makes sense. I mean, because we're stardust and we're
absolutely.
atoms, we're made of particles.
Absolutely.
We're like this miraculous phenomena that this energy has created you. You know, and it's like. Here we are right now, sitting here sharing this information with everybody.
Yes.
And so where were we now? We talked.
Well, I tell you one thing, because I do a lot of counseling with people with the cards, and one of the questions I ask is, "What's your star? What kind of star is you? What's your magic? How do you shine? What's your genius? What's your light? And are you shining that light?" And most people have a hard time answering that. A really hard time answering that.
Well, that's where you come in. I would think you could help them, meditate or help them get in touch with their intuition so they can become more aware. I unfortunately, and I shouldn't be talking so damn much, but I think most people are so caught up in trying to survive. They focus on you got to get a job, you got to figure out how to pay your bills, and all those things that are expected of us as citizens or whatever.
Right.
So they need someone to come in and.
Hey,
and here's your man, James Wanless. Let's call him up. All you gotta do is call him up, and he'll get you going, get you activated.
I'm hearing it. I'm getting it.
Let me see. There's something over your shoulder over there. It looks like a unicorn watching you.
Oh, my unicorn.
Yeah.
I think maybe I am a unicorn sometimes.
Well, it's interesting that the corn comes out of the bird's eye.
Right.
Let me see something. Something's going on with light here I don't like. Sorry about that. Anybody's going to watch this, there's going to be a couple little bumps on the road because I'm dealing with things that are interacting with us.
Right.
So anyway, well, the unicorn and the horn and where it comes out. So what do you got to say about the unicorn real quick, and we'll bring it to closure.
Well, it's so beautiful and mysterious and mythic. I mean, it's
Comes out of the imagination.
It's totally out of the imagination. But where does that come from? You can't tell me that it wasn't physically real somewhere along the line, really, So we're not just making stuff up. It's all been made up. I mean, the world's been around a while, right? And so have we. So you know what Plato said? Plato said the path to enlightenment, to be the star that you are, and intuitive, is to remember who you are. We have forgotten. Whoa.
Yeah. I get tired of hearing this word. I don't recall.
Well, recall, call it in. I mean,
right. I heard somebody would say that to these guys when they're being investigated by the Congress, and they go, "I don't recall. Well, you do recall. So that's where you would come in, right? You can say, "Okay, quiet your mind. Right. Now relax and just take a deep breath because we're going to help you recall." Right.
and when I sit there and watch that, and my intuition is open here, I said, that's a lie. This guy, he knows. He's lying. And I was once called for jury duty, and I didn't really want to be there. It was a big pain in the butt, obviously. But anyway, they had a case, and then they wanted to interview the potential jurors, and I'm one of the potential. So they get to me, and I say, well, I'm an intuitive, and I've already made up my mind here. Which is not...
That was brilliant.
Well, okay, I thought they'd excuse me immediately because this guy's whacked or whatever. But then they spent like half an hour questioning me. The attorney did. The judge finally said, so what is this guy, guilty or not? Which I would have thrown that whole court case out based on that prejudice. But anyway, they got rid of me. And so I said, they did ask me, and I said, guy's guilty. I really felt it strongly. And then later on, I did find out that he was guilty of DUI. No, they let me go. They let me go.
But it was interesting that they wanted to hear what you had to say.
Yeah. Which...
well, you would have been a good example. You brought up the Native Americans, making reference to another sense. But just think about, when they first met the Europeans, they realized they intuitively... when they scanned them, read them, they said they're speaking with a forked tongue, which meant they were lying.
Okay.
Right.
That. Sure.
Native
Forked tongue.
The story is that they were, encountered some white settlers who were coming to talk, take. Their intentions was to take their land, and the Indians were looking at them, and they're trying to tell them some cockamamie story, and the Indians supposedly looked at each other and said, they're speaking with a forked tongue.
Yeah, well, that's what... How do you know somebody's speaking with a forked tongue unless you've done it? It's all projection of yourself.
Yeah, do you think the Native Americans lied? They might have lied to each other.
Oh, I'm sure they lied. They're humans. Okay. Well, there's a study. The average person tells 2 white lies a day. White lie, I'm not quite sure it's a white lie, but they're little, fibs. Twice a day. Probably. Like on the phone, I'm busy when you're not.
Call it white lie, not black lie, because I think white lie is very appropriate for our leadership. It's like the big white lie. Okay, so I don't know. We don't want to get off on politics. But you see what happens. Intuition can take you down many different roads. And maybe that's what really subconsciously we're concerned about. Right. And it's CP out.
There's a lot of red flags around intuition. And one of the biggest red flags is a person says, well, I see the truth. Yeah, the truth is meaning what they want to see as the truth.
And it's based on their knowledge. I mean, if you're limited, if
you don't know what you don't know.
Right, exactly. If you believe in something that has enormous limitations,
right.
A belief system that possesses you, then I don't think intuition would work for you because you're not able to see beyond your own reality.
Well, that's what I mean. So it's really hard to read other people, really.
Oh, absolutely. I always say I have no idea what's going on in their minds.
Well, it's better to stay blank. I totally agree with that. And even when I do cards, I'm supposed to be psychic and all that, and say, I'm not going to do that. I'm not even trying to read you. I am literal to the cards because the cards are the roadmap of you.
And of course, when I say it's hard to know what's going on in someone's mind because we talked about the duality. But body language is really obvious. Absolutely. As a pantomime artist all my life, and I'm real familiar with my feelings and my body.
Right.
I read people their body language.
Got it.
And I understand. Should I get out of here?
Right.
Stop hanging around with this person because it's toxic. Anyway, I don't want to get off on my stuff.
No, I love it, but that's so true. I mean, it is true what you're just saying here.
Right, it's important. That's when intuition really works for you.
And reading, mind reading, forget it.
Right.
Forget it.
Yeah, I agree. You want to repeat that again?
Forget it.
That is something you don't want to recall.
Right.
You want to forget that.
Right.
So now, go ahead. What is it? So what?
Well, we're talking about reading the body. I mean, like last night.
And not the mind. The mind, forget about trying to read
So last night, for example, I'm at a circle discussion group kind of a thing. And the idea was, how do you approach strangers and engage them to make Los Angeles a friendlier city? Okay, that's what this is about. So I'm looking around the room, and there's two guys in there who, one's wearing flip-flops, like maybe, yeah, you're wearing flip-flops with no socks, you, and another guy similar to flip-flops with no socks. And I said, this is my intuition. I've never seen a study, but my intuition says if you're not wearing socks and you're wearing flip-flops, you're probably a more open man, an open human being, and more easily able to relate to and engage. I would bet that's true. That's my intuition saying, though. But I like studies. I want to see the facts.
Well, for me as a child, I never wore shoes. Okay? So it's still in me that I'm uncomfortable with shoes because my feet feel like they're suffocating and they're sweating and I can hear them. They're screaming, get these shoes off, will you? And so I like being barefoot. I like walking in the ocean. I like walking in the grass because my feet pick up a lot of energy. And it's a fact. We know that. Feet are they're intuitive. They're sending information
absolutely.
Up to you that's coming from the earth that you got your feet on the ground, right?
Yeah, and I have one of my decks.
We could go on forever because now we're talking about water. We're talking about water
molecules. I know. And I went and walked in the mud the other day.
I saw that disgusting picture. It looked like you were walking in a tire pit.
Well, it is a tire. There's a lot of oil around
right
here.
now on the beach, Pee Wee got it on his feet,
It's
man.
everywhere. Yeah, it was tar, but it took care of my toenails that needed help. I swear to God.
Yeah.
Yes.
What was going on there,
Yeah, I took them off. Two of them off, and that was fabulous.
Cool. Okay, I don't know. We should probably end this. People are going, what the hell are these guys talking about? That's what happens when you get two intuitives get together and they just trip out.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's, we're reboomers, and reboomers never quitting. That's right. Creating, rather.
Right.
Yeah.
That was our mission. That's what we came in to do.
Right.
You got to be very strong and you have a strong constitution, right? I mean, an intuitive person, because you could lean towards being have too much empathy or being an empath, and that's really
balance.
Carrying all that, you don't want to be carrying somebody else's stuff.
Yeah, you want to be no, exactly. You want to be clean. You want to be equanimous, and that's not an easy state to get into. Oh.
No, and to me, diet's important. What I put in my mouth, what I eat.
A bunch of sugar, and I'm like, or even caffeine, like, or a bad email in the morning, like, that's it. We're not very smart when we're stressed, and we're not very intuitive when we're unbalanced emotionally.
Decisions. We don't, do things that are
right. So the intuition is a finely developed intelligence, but we need to develop it, grow it, cultivate it, and just pay attention to it in a wise way.
Yeah, it's like not we're talking about action. We weren't talking about action, but not to react.
Right.
You got to be careful where you want to get. There's a place where you don't react to anything.
Yeah, right.
Because even like panicking, I mean, that's a dangerous place to.
Well, response. A response
is a little your life if you panic.
Exactly.
So I mean, trust me, I could
breathe, exhale, chill.
Right. Try to get some clarity.
Feel it, and then you can respond correctly.
Right, especially if your life was being threatened in that moment, you definitely want to stay grounded and focused and watch what's going on.
Right.
That's where your instincts really start kicking in, your intuition, because if you don't pay attention, you might get killed. And I don't, I sounds negative, but that's what happens.
Well, here in the highways, I mean, come on, driving in L.A.
Imagine if you were in a place where somebody's shooting, walks in with an AR-15, 16, whatever the hell they're called, and they start opening up fire on everybody. What do? You better kick into your intuition and try to pay attention, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know, where do we end this at? You got anything we should?
Well, we intuitives, and we're all intuitive. If you develop it, you will be happier with yourself and your life.
If you're watching this right now, that's it. There's no turning back. You've been activated by the Dr. James, the ultimate intuition
and this book actually just got translated into Japanese just last month.
Cool.
And so I'm going to do a whole series of classes there. Good. But I really love getting into the business companies, though. That's interesting.
Yeah, because they need it. They're like maybe heavy on one side. They're extremely right-brained. They need
very analytical. Very. And they need that.
I mean, that's what, was mentioned, and that's what the Leonardo mentioned.
Oh.
I think what rich dude bought the journals? They were like in the billions. I don't know, it was a really billions, I think it was. And, maybe not that much. I think it was like $52 million or something. But he bought it because in there, Leonardo da Vinci talks about, and that's he could paint and write at the same time.
Wow.
I mean, that's what it was about. He could stand there and he could write with one hand and paint with the other hand, and he was using both sides of his brain. The one side he was being real analytical, talking about the process of what he was doing, and the other side was doing it.
My hero.
Painting. Right, you got to look into that. That was what is. I remember it happened to be in New York at the time, and there was a big couple centerfold ads about his right left brain. Everybody was doing it.
Right.
That's who's coming into the corporations, and you might want to look into that because that's real important because that's what they were trying to do. Because you mentioned it, you said you want to get both sides of the brain to work, and that's what they were trying to do.
Right.
Is to get people to understand both sides of what the process would be to sell a product.
Use the whole brain.
Use the whole brain.
Because it's awesome.
Okay. Yeah. Use the whole brain. Let's end on that.
Okay. Thank you.
Who am I talking to?
You're talking to me, Dr. James Wanless.
And what do you want everybody to do? Use the what?
Use your intuition. Live an intuitive life, and you'll never go back. Never leave home without it.
That's good. All right. Thank you, James.
Thank you,
was fun.
Thank you, man.